Hello and welcome to Jessie at Home. This is the first of 3 videos that are going to show you how to make this ornament blanket, this ornament throw. And the ornament throw pattern can be found at redheart.com. It is designed by me, Jessie Rat, and I am going to show you, like I said, how to make this. It is made in several different steps. So it begins off by making this individual ornament, a whole lot of them, see the little individual ornament pieces. Then the next step is to join those ornament pieces into these long strips. And then the last step is to join all these strips together to make the blanket. And then there's some finishing that happens on the after all of that is joined together. So we're going to break it down into those 3 steps and do 3 videos, one for each of those steps. So first the ornament, then the strips, and then the joining and the finishing. So first, with this ornament, with the explanation of the ornament, I'm also going to give you a little bit of how to get started information as well. So why don't we go ahead and get to that. Now, to begin with, this pattern uses several different colors of yarn, obviously. Alright, there's actually 9 colors in this pattern. And with any pattern that I'm working that has more than 2 or 3 colors, and the colors are referred to in the pattern by a letter, such as this pattern does, what I like to do is I take my yarn and on the ball band, I put the letter, the color letter, and that way when I'm working and it says to use color I don't have to remember which color I is. It's right there on the ball band, okay? So I do that. It really helps me stay organized. If I have some of this left over and then I use it for something else, you can either just scribble it out and put the next letter on, or you can put a piece of masking tape over that, or one of those little, circle dot stickers that people use to price things at garage sales. Those are all great ways to kind of cover that up and put a new number on. I find that it's really important not to put this number on top of any of this information, because you might need this information if you're making another pattern. It might refer to the color just by the name. It might refer to the color just by the number. This particular kind of yarn doesn't you don't need to worry about a dye lot, but sometimes you do, depending on what yarns you're using. This yarn is obviously Red Heart Super Saver. It's a little mangled because, I use it a lot. Alright, so let's talk about these little ornaments. This blanket, you start off with this throw by making a whole lot of little ornaments. And there is a color chart. Alright, this is in the pattern, so don't worry if you can't really make it all out. But there is a color chart, and I have completed all of my ornaments except for this one that I highlighted here. But let's go through what this color chart means. This is the ornament number, because within the pattern at a later time, we're going to refer to each ornament by its number. So what I did was I made all of these ornaments and I laid them out in numerical order. First I made all the number 1s, then I made all the number 2s. You do it how you want. You can always make them as you need them when you're making the strips, whatever floats your boat, but this is how they're referred to within the pattern. Ornament number 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And for ornament number 15, which is the one that we're working on next, you can see that the first color in this pattern is color I. And so I have my color I. Okay, the second color that I'm going to use is color F, and the third color is color H. When you're working on the pattern, it will say start with first color, and then it'll say switch to second color, and then it will say switch to third color. So that first color, second color, third color is how the colors are referred to within the pattern. And that is why I have it written out that way in this chart. And then the very last column here says make this many. You can see that you make 5 of most of them, but there's a couple of them that you actually have to make 6 of. Alright, so this is your little chart, and we're just going to follow along. When we need to make ornament number 1, our first color will be B, our second color will be E, our third color will be D, I happen to be working on ornament number 15 right now. So my first color will be I, which is this blue. I'm going to put it up here. Okay, my second color will be F, which is this green. I'm going to put that up here. And my third color will be H, which is this purple. I'm going to put it up here. And this is actually the same one. This is one of my ornament number 15s already. So this is what we're making. Okay, I'm going to move this out of the way before we get started so you can see everything with a little bit clearer background. And we'll get started on making those ornaments. Okay, let's start off with this ornament now. This is ornament number 15 that we're making, but all the ornaments are made the same way. The only difference is which color is in which spot, but the color changes happen at the same place. The rounds are made the same. It's all the same, it's just which color is which is the only difference. So to begin with round 1 on this ornament, we start off with a slip knot. And I am going to show you a few little shortcuts or tips and tricks that I use while I usually at the beginning or the end of a color is when I do something slightly different than what the pattern says, but I'll let you know what I do that's the little bit of a change that I find just makes things either a little neater looking or a little easier to do or a little quicker, whatever. I'll let you know whenever I do one of those things. So to begin with, we chain 4. Well, obviously you start off with a slip knot, and then we chain 4 and join with a slip stitch to form a loop. So we're just making our loop like you do at the beginning of pretty much anything that's worked in the round. Doesn't really matter which part of that first chain you go through to form a loop. You just need to form a loop. Now we need to make what is essentially 12 double crochets into this loop. So to begin with, we chain 3, which counts as our first double crochet. Now if you want to just chain 2 to count as your first double crochet, if you're a person who likes to do 2 for double crochet instead of 3, you can do that. You know, there's lots of debate as to which one you should do. Do whichever one makes you happy. Alright, so that counts as our first double crochet, and now we're going to double crochet 11 more into this loop so that we end up with a total of 12 stitches in this little loop or ring. And you notice, as I always do, when I work into this ring, I'm going to work over top of not only the ring, but also the tail of my yarn. And that way I can pull this tail to close that hole tight if that's what I want. Alright, so there was 1, 2, 3, 10, and 11. Alright, so I've now double crocheted 11 into this loop. And you can see that hole looks really big. You could always have started with 3 chains if you want to. Some people just have a hard time working into just 3 chains. But I don't really stress about it because I'm going to pull this tail that I worked over top later, and I can tighten that hole as much as I want at that point. So I double crocheted 11 in here, but first I did my chain 2 or 3, so I should end up with a total of 12 stitches because that first set of chains counts as a stitch. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I do have 12 stitches. And I'm now going to join to the top of the beginning chain 2 or 3 to form a loop. Okay? That's round 1. For round 2, we start off with a chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And this time it has to be a chain 3 because that chain 3 counts as a half double crochet and a chain 1. The first 2 chains count as the half double crochet and the last chain counts as a chain. Okay, so that's my half double crochet and my chain 1. I now need to place a half double crochet and a chain 1 into each of the remaining stitches around. Right, so that was my first one. There'll be 11 more. So a half double crochet, chain 1. That's 1. Half double crochet, chain 1. 2. Half double crochet, chain 1. 3. Half double crochet, chain 1, that's 11, and then so including this chain 3, I should have 12 sets of half double crochet chain 1. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I know I did everything right, and you can now, what the pattern says is to slip stitch to the second chain of the beginning chain 3, and then you're going to change color. Now what I'm going to do, rather than slip stitching and then changing color, is I'm going to fasten this off and then start the next round with the color new. So I'm just going to clip my yarn. I'm going to pinch this stitch so that when I pull the yarn through, I don't tighten that stitch. Okay. I'm going to thread this up onto a yarn needle. Then I'm going to make a little invisible join. So here is where I pulled my stitch through, right? Here is the stitch that I'm joining into. So I'm going to just run my needle here. It's underneath these 2 loops, but it's still on top of that bottom loop. Okay, you see it's on top of the bottom loop, underneath these 2 loops. Run the yarn through, and then I'm going to go back down through here where it came out to begin with. And what I've done is I've made a little duplicate stitch on top so you can't really see the seam, okay? Now, you can see how all of these stitches have that extra little loop that comes back, and this one doesn't. That means that I need to bring the loop back this way and go down through this stitch when I begin to weave in my ends, and that'll give me that little bottom loop that this stitch doesn't have yet. Okay, and now you just weave in your ends. So I'm just going to go ahead and weave this one in a little bit. Just go back and forth through a few stitches, and you want to also make sure that you change direction a couple times. That'll really help with assuring that your yarn doesn't come back out again as if you change directions a few times. So there we go. There's that end woven in. Now this is my beginning end. My beginning tail, right? Okay, and you can see that it was coming out in this direction. So I usually go under a few more in that direction. I guess it's probably not necessary, but for some reason I do. And then I pull, and when I pulled, it tightened that circle, closed it up. With this particular pattern, I like having that circle closed because this isn't a pattern full of a lot of holes. It's not like a granny square where there's lots of holes and I don't mind having that open. This is a very solid pattern. I like having that circle closed, which is why I pull it tight. You, of course, do whatever makes you happy. So now I went in the one direction, now I'm going back in the other direction, just around a ways. Right, and go kind of all the way around a bit, and then I change direction one more time, and that should be plenty. Now clip those 2 ends, maybe. Okay, and here we have rounds 1 and 2. Now for round 3, we have our new color, which is color F, and I have marked my band so I know that this is color F. And I'm going to start off by placing a slip knot on my hook. Now again, this is somewhere where I vary a little different from the pattern, because in the pattern we would have just joined the new color and then chained 3 to count as our first double crochet. But I'm actually going to make myself a standing double crochet here, and you just want to make sure that you're joining on top of any of these half double crochets. You're not joining into a chain space, you're joining into any of the half double crochets. So to make a standing double crochet, I hold onto my tail so that my loop doesn't wrap around my, doesn't unwrap when I yarn over. See, I'm pinching my tail here. Then I yarn over, and I just make the double crochet into one of these half doubles. Okay? And sometimes I get it a little loose when I do it that way. Let's try again. It's one of those things that when I'm on the video, I sometimes just don't quite have my tension right. There we go. Alrighty. Now, this could have been the chain 3 that we started the row with if we just changed colors, but in our case we just did a standing double. But either way, you're going to now continue in the same manner. You're going to place another double crochet in that same space, in that same stitch. And now you're going to place a double crochet into the stitch below this half double crochet that you just worked on, and you're going to be working over top of this chain space. Okay, so here's the chain space. We're going to kind of work over top of that and into this stitch. You see how we were working above this half double? We're now going to go down and work below it. So we yarn over and we go below that half double. And we just make our double crochet. Okay, and it goes next to this and above the chain 1 space, and everything's good. Now we're going to all the way around, so 11 times, because that was the first of our 12 sets. You know, remember how we have 12 half double crochets? We just dealt with the first one. Now we have 11 more to deal with. So what we're going to do is work 2 doubles into the next half double. 1, 2. And then a double into the stitch below that half double and working over top of that chain space. I'll show you that again. 2 doubles into the next half double. 1, 2. And then a double into the stitch below the half double. So the stitch that the half double is actually made in, that's the stitch that you're working into. Okay, you're going to keep doing that all the way around. So 2 doubles, 1, 2, and then a double that's dropped down. This is actually called a spike stitch. There you go, all the way around. I have one more set of 2 doubles and then a spiked double to finish off this round. So 2 doubles into the next half. 1 and 2, and then a double down below into row 1 below the half. 2. That's the end of that round. Now this particular round does tell you to end off. So it tells you to join to the top of the first, the top of the beginning chain 3, or in this case would be the top of our standing half double, or standing double, with a slip stitch to, you know, end off the round or whatever. And again, though, I'm going to, rather than doing that slip stitch, I'm going to do one of those invisible joins. You can do the slip stitch by all means if that's what you're comfortable with, and then weave in your ends. But either way, you do need to finish this off at this point, because otherwise you'll get a funny little seam look. You see how all of these chains are coming up like this? If you don't fasten off this row and start this round and then start the new round new, you will have one spot where this gets tucked in. Okay, and since we don't want that, that's why we have to end off this round. So here we go. And the next round is the one that might seem a little scary, but once we do it, you'll realize there's nothing to worry about. So we are making a duplicate stitch, and what we're duplicating is we're duplicating this chain right here. So you can see I've pulled my yarn tail through, right? My last stitch I pulled it through, so I've got it sticking straight out rather than making that little loop. I'm now going to go not here, but I'm going to duplicate this loop, which means I'm going to go here. Okay, here's the loop, and the loop goes through here, so that's what I'm duplicating. That's where I'm going through. And then I'm going to go back down through here, and it actually, you can see that this yarn, when it came up, it went through 2 loops. So when I go down, I'm going to go down through these 2 loops as well. Sorry. Here's the top, and I'm going to go down through the top loop and one below it. What I want to do when I pull that is make sure that this loop right here that I'm duplicating is actually below my new stitch, and I want to pull it tight enough that it matches the other ones. Okay, now I'm going to go back over this direction over to the left and come down through this stitch when I end things off. And don't worry about this little bit here, because when we weave in this end, we'll take care of that. So now I'm going to just weave in this end. So I'm going to go through, I'm just going to go back and forth through a couple stitches here. Go up through the middle of this one, back down through the middle of this one, and then maybe over underneath this stuff here. Okay. Now let's weave in the other end. And I'm just going to kind of pull it that way a little bit, and you'll see when I start to weave it in, see, it just kind of closes itself up. It's not really a big deal. It looked weird until we wove it in, but now that we've got that kind of tacked down with our weaving in, it doesn't look weird anymore. It's all good. You just weave in however you're comfortable. Just make sure that you really truly are weaving in your ends, that you're not just kind of working over them or, you know, doing something that's going to come out, especially because these blankets tend to get washed a lot. I mean, this is Red Heart Super Saver. These blankets wash forever. I have blankets that my great-grandmother made with this yarn that get tossed in the wash all the time because we make blanket forts out of them and have picnics on them, and you would not believe the things my children, my twins, have done to my great-grandmother's blanket. I toss that thing in the laundry, in the washer, in the dryer, and it comes out and it looks good as new. So these things get washed a lot. So you want to make sure you weave your ends in well. All right? They're made to be used and loved and abused in a loving way. There we go. Clip our ends. And now we're on to our next color. So we just finished up round 3, which kind of looks like it's 2 rounds, but it's really only 1. It's just that spike stitch here that makes it look like it was 2 rounds, and it gives it this really pretty little look that I love on those kind of teardrop shaped ornaments. They usually have some pretty little circular pattern in them. So that's what inspired me to put that little spike stitch there. So that was round 3. Now we're going to work on rounds 4 and 5. And in this case, with this particular ornament that we're making right now, rounds 4 and 5 are made with color H, which is the lavender. So let me pull out, smacking my tripod with my crochet hook. Pull out a bunch of this, and let's get started. First thing we do is get a slip knot on our hook. Okay, I know I'm leaving really long tails, but I don't want to worry about not having enough to weave in. All right. So our first stitch is to make a standing back post half double crochet, which sounds scary. It's not. Okay, you're going to a half double crochet, as you know, you yarn over, you insert your hook, you yarn over, you pull through, you yarn over, you pull through all 3, okay? A back post half double crochet, instead of going in here, you come around the back of the post and then back again like this. A standing back post half double crochet just means you're working that without having any stitches started before it. It means it's your very first one. You're not using a starting chain. So what we're going to do, we have that slip knot on our hook. We're going to yarn over just like you would to start a half double crochet. And then we're just going to grab one of these spike stitches, any one you want, and come from behind the spike stitch, okay, from behind the spike stitch up to the front, then go back over the post of that stitch and go from the front to the back again. Yarn over, pull through. Okay, so we just did that around the post of that stitch, and there are three loops on our hook, as long as you're holding on to this tail so that things aren't coming unwound. We're going to yarn over again and pull through all three of them. There is your standing back post half double crochet. Now you're going to make a back post half double crochet in all of the remaining stitches around. So you want to be careful when you're weaving in your ends before, I should have pointed that out, when you weave in your ends at the end of round 3, make sure you're not doing anything to join these posts together. Okay, you can weave them vertically. You saw that I was going down through a stitch and then back up and then down, and when I did go around, I actually went around in the part of the stitch that was attached to the stitch below it. I went around down here, but in the back. I did not go around through here, which would have joined those posts together. Okay, so make sure when you weave in your ends, you're not joining your posts together, because you'll run into a problem when you get to that area if you have been doing that. So now we're going to continue to make back post half double crochets around. So I'll show you a few more. You yarn over, and then you're going to come back behind the next post and wrap around it and pull a yarn over through. Yarn over, pull through everything. Yarn over, come back to front, and then over top and front to back again around the next post. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through everything. Yarn over, back to front, and then front to back around the next post. Yarn over, pull through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. So you're making these back post half double crochets. Keep doing that all the way around. You can see I have one more stitch to work around, one more half double crochet that doesn't have a back post one more double crochet that doesn't have a back post half double crochet around it. So I'm going to do that last one. And you can tell you're done now because there aren't any more posts that have not been worked around. So now you're going to join with the slip stitch to the first stitch that you made, to the first standing half double crochet that you made. I actually, again, I skip over top of this one and work into here, because then this loop that just happened replaces this loop, okay? Some people will work into this loop here and then just pull everything really tightly to hide that one. I don't bother. I just leave that one there and let that be the new loop. Now that we've done that, we are done with this round, with round 4, and we're going to begin round 5. So to begin round 5, make sure I have my working yarn, not my tail, we chain 2, which counts as our first half double crochet. And then you're going to place another half double crochet in the same stitch. So you see how this was where I worked into to make my slip stitch to join? That's the same place we're going to work into to make this second half double crochet. So there's a chain 2 and a half double crochet, and those count as 2 half double crochets worked into that stitch. Now I'm going to half double crochet in each of the next 2. Maybe. Now 2 half doubles in the next. Half double in each of the next 2. I'm going to do that 2 more times. 2 half doubles in the next, and then half double in the next 2. So 2 half doubles in this one, and then 1 and 1. Do that one more time. 2 halves, then 1 and 1. So at this point what you have is 4 sets of 2 half doubles and then 2 individuals. So you see there's 2 in this one, and then 2 by themselves, then 2 in this one, and then 2 by themselves, 2 in this one, 2 by themselves, 2 in this one, 2 by themselves, 4 sets of those. Okay? Now we get to make our little pointy bit. We're going to place a half double and then a double in this next stitch. Half double and double both into the same stitch. Double into the next stitch. Now 2 trebles into the next stitch. So you yarn over twice, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That's 1 treble. Yarn over twice, insert your hook into the same stitch because we're placing 2 trebles in here. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. Two trebles in that stitch, same thing the next place. Another 2 trebles in the next stitch. 1 and 2. Now you're going to place a double crochet in each of the next 2. And now you're going to repeat that process, only instead of having a chain 2 and a half double here, you're going to have 2 half doubles. So 2 half doubles in the next, and then a half double in each of the next 2. 2 half doubles, then a half double in each of the next 2. 2 half doubles in the next, and a half double in each of the next 2. 2 half doubles in the next, and a half double in each of the next 2. And now we're going to repeat the point that we just did before. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to place a half double and then a double in the next stitch. Half double and double in the next stitch. Double in the next one. 2 trebles in each of the next 2. It's 2 trebles in that one. And 2 trebles in that one. A double crochet in each of the last 2 stitches. And now you can slip stitch to the top of the beginning chain 2 to join, or you can do what I like to do, which is again the duplicate stitch. And even if this is the only place where you do the duplicate stitch, I really recommend it. Actually, there's 2 places where I really think it's important. I think it's really important on this round so that you don't have a funny little blip where wherever your seam was, and then it's really important on this round so that when you're working into things again, you don't mistake what is and isn't a stitch. It's a lot easier to just work continuously when you're joining all of your ornaments together. If you have that duplicate stitch join, it just makes your life a lot easier. So we clipped our yarn, we pinch this so that we don't accidentally tighten any stitches. We pull the tail through so that it's coming straight out with just one end. Put it onto your needle. And for some reason I didn't do very well that time. Okay. And now we're going to duplicate stitch, okay? So we're actually going to go into right here because we're working on top of this chain 2. This little chain 2 counts as our first half double. So we're working into this chain. And then we're going to come back down through where the yarn came out. And it actually goes through 2 loops. Okay, back through where the yarn came out, it goes through 2 loops. And then go back over to the left here, down through this stitch. Okay, and you can see now you have a nice continuous set of stitches. Here's a stitch with a loop right above it. Here's a stitch with a loop right above it. Here's a stitch, this little chain with a loop right above it, stitch with a loop right above it. If you keep looking, you'll see everything matches up. It's nice and neat. Okay, stitch, loop, stitch, loop, stitch, loop, stitch, loop, stitch, loop. It's all nice and neat. And when you're working, when you're joining things together, you won't have any confusion as to what gets worked into and what doesn't. Okay, so just weave in your ends and you will have this. And then you will be ready once you've finished all of these. There's a lot of them. You'll be ready to start joining them into your strips. And that is our next video.